this is a mechanical clock. And as you can see, there's no pendulum. It's just firing off on its own because yesterday, while looking at it, I broke the suspension. So that needs to be rebuilt, which is a fail. But anyway, the idea. Let's go through the idea. So these are some pieces of the pendulum. So this is the main part that hooks on, that swings, and then here is some decorative parts, and this is the actual weight and some other decorative bits and pieces. So the function of a pendulum is that as it swings, it is actually responsible for determining the amount of time. So as the pendulum swings left and right, there's a tick and a tock, and this regulates that amount of time. So what I want to do is I want to build an automated pendulum. So anyway, let me just show this part here. So how you would regulate the amount of time it takes for the pendulum to swing is, if you look over here, there are some threads over here, and this would be the weight that's sitting on it. And you have this screw here that attaches on the bottom and screws up and down. So if the clock is running too fast and you want to slow it down, you'd unscrew it so the pendulum goes down lower, which means that it takes a longer time to swing, thus increasing the time and making it run slower. And if the pendulum is running too slow, you would turn that screw clockwise, moving this weight up, making the pendulum swing shorter and thus making it run faster. So what I want to do is I want to make an incredibly accurate pendulum by using electronics to adjust the pendulum. So I went over to DIY Electronics, not a sponsor, but they should totally sponsor me. And I bought some bits and pieces. So here is a screw with a part that goes onto it, and here's a stepper motor. Here's my trusty Raspberry Pi Pico W, shout out Raspberry Pi, stepper motor driver, stepper motor, and some other bits and pieces. So I plan on making this automated pendulum. So one of the first things that I had to do was I had to make sure that all my parts are not going to overload the very, very sensitive parts of this. So as you can see, that part called the suspension, the pendulum swings on, it's actually just two very thin pieces of metal. So I had to make sure that the weight of my parts hanging onto that pendulum are not going to be too heavy. So let's take a look. So here's the pendulum pieces. I'm just going to put them onto the scale. Let's turn the scale on. Okay. So all the pendulum parts, 248 grams. So I've got 248 grams to play with. Let's zero that. And let's take off. So this weight will be replaced. Decorative piece, also don't need it. These pieces here, I won't need it. I only really need this shaft because that has that little end there. If it would focus. Let me do this trick of using my hand. So it just has this little end there that I need. So I'm going to be using the shaft, and the shaft itself, that gives me 233 grams to play with. If I put on this heavy piece over here that I'm going to use, that leaves me with 146 grams. And if I just disconnect this quickly, okay, let me not touch this. But anyway, I've got 146 grams to play with really when it comes to the electronics, the stepper motor, and how to power this thing, which I haven't thought of yet.